Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Dwyrin here again, and we are back with another one of my shorties, a series that I have not been able to do in quite some time. Thanks to your lovely ongoing support, the series is going to be back, but with a little bit of extra additions. Along with various topics that I'm going to be concentrating on and, combining them into like one little video, I'm also going to be doing something like I'm going to be doing today, which is looking at interesting little situations that occur in some of the games that I've been watching on Taigem and elsewhere, and bringing them to your attention as well. Because even if you can't review the entire game, I'm sure you're going to find a lot of these situations equally interesting. As usual, I only study professional games typically. That goes for when I'm also watching online. So this game between two professional players on Taigem will look both familiar and very, very different at the same time. As you can see here, the game started off with Black playing very, very aggressively, with this being the last move played on the board. So he's going for a very, very quick framework. White backed off, and then proceeded to go into a game in which we have to attack the mini Chinese Fuseki. So we have an aggressive player on our hands immediately in this game. From there, it went pretty much as you would expect. White had to split the side, but where this led us was something didn't quite expect. You can see immediately here that Black pushed White into settling on the side, trying to develop as quickly as possible. White, not wanting to quickly keep playing moves over here and turn around and see large areas being developed for Black, decides to invade immediately, and that's where a complicated situation turns in, and that's where a very, very interesting life and death problem begins to take place. Here's where the story really begins to unfold. Because after defending Black's corner, White decides that nothing is here for him, so he's going to get out as quickly as possible and as solidly as possible. However, Black has other ideas. Black is going to aggressively decide to say, no, White, you are not going to obviously get a very, very large wall across the entire board, and I'm going to fight this. White takes him up on the offer and decides to continue to try and develop that wall, not protecting the cut point that we see here. At that point, White has to decide what he wants to do, and that is develop this side, where White has now allowed this group to be cut off. Now this starts to look very, very dangerous for White indeed. However, it seems that everything is going to be okay for now. With some quick pushing, looks like we have more than enough space to go ahead and live. All we have to do is not play away right now. We should be able to get our base. Black says, okay, looks like it's rapidly living. I'm going to forget this and play elsewhere, thus leaving the situation relatively unfinished, and how we have a life and death situation here later on in the game. With Black's cut right here, after this group has been completely surrounded, this is where the fun begins. We need to ensure that this White group is alive. Otherwise, this has turned very, very bad indeed for White. And we've been completely surrounded on the right-hand side. We've been surrounded on the bottom. Hopefully, what we gain on the left-hand side is going to offset being surrounded here. But that's not going to matter if we're dead here in the center. So the question now becomes, how do we live with this group? Or is it in fact going to die? White Atari is down. Black follows, forcing White to fill. Now, it's not looking all that healthy for White. And admittedly, I wasn't entirely certain if this group was going to be alive or dead. I was kind of leaning towards dead when I was watching this particular game. But the reason why I was thinking that is because I was not thinking about the one thing that I always tell myself when I'm looking at a game. If a group only needs to live, it's going to find a way to live. So it is Black's move right now. Black decides to play here. Can White actually live with this group? Can you see a way for white to live with this group? Feel free to pause and try to work this out for yourself. The variation is actually quite interesting. Let's begin with what doesn't work. Black had played the Atari here. Let's assume he plays here instead, looking to block the eye over here. Well, that really wouldn't work out very well, due to the nature of this corner. We wouldn't want, for example, white to get in this attachment. Otherwise, the only thing we can do now is connect, which is not going to be very good for us. It allows white to link up underneath. Now, chances are we're not going to be alive in the corner for very much longer. Well, no. Technically, I think we're dead as is. I mean, we can try to aggressively play and ensure that doesn't happen, but going to ko at best is not a very good solution here, especially with local threats. So instead, black plays the Atari underneath, knowing he cannot play here. White takes. Black backs off. That way, this isn't turning into a ko. But now we still need to find eyes for white. He expands on his base. Black threatens to cut. You can see the cut point right here. But if you think that we have to protect this right now, unfortunately, you would be dead, and you need to read a little bit harder than you did previously. Instead, white extends, threatening to live, right? Because if we get this move in, we can get an eye right here. So black connects, or cuts rather, I'm sorry. And now despite this group having a shape here, we can see something very, very interesting. We can see after this move, there is no way to kill white. And in fact, if we keep trying, black is the one that loses stones. So we descend. White connects. Black doesn't want to get captured, so he pushes. Rather than connecting or extending, white plays the Hane, putting this group here in a liberty shortage. Oops. Black Atari is way to freedom, and white lives. Obviously, we don't want to give up the 4 stones, so black connects, allowing white to Atari. Here, we can see this group has managed to live. So white gained the outside that he was looking for, and he managed to avoid dying with his inside groups, as well as taking 2 stones for himself after black captures right here. So that was a very, very interesting life and death problem. You don't often see kind of almost textbook life and death problems like this, where one group is clearly surrounded and needs to live, kind of like you would see in a problem, in just like on Go problems or in some book sitting on your shelf. So these things are always really, really interesting for me, and I always like studying them because they're directly from games. This is something that I might see, especially in one of my own games, if I were to play the Chinese Fuseki, or the mini Chinese Fuseki rather. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's look at another one. So I hope you enjoyed this shorty. I certainly enjoyed the games that I showed you today, and the problems for the reasons why I enjoyed those games. Hope you did too. I'll of course see you next time with maybe more of the same, maybe something a bit different. But whatever it is, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So until then, thanks for your continued support, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.